inside of that launch shroud, the launch escape tower on the very top. The 4 strap-on boosters in the core stage will ignite in just a little under 2 minutes. We're 1 minute 45 seconds away from launch. Again, you'll see the rockets ignite. They'll fire for a few seconds, and then once they're at their maximum thrust, they'll actually overpower all of those counterweights, and the Soyuz will lift off from pad number 1 in Baikonur. 1 minute 30 seconds away from launch. Again, at this point, the propellant feed into the rocket has already been terminated, and the booster tank is pressurized for flight. And we are 1 minute and counting.
Vehicle to internal power.
So the vehicle now on internal power, and you can see that first umbilical breaking away. And then when we see the second umbilical depart, you'll know it's 15 seconds away from the liftoff. Again, not tracking any issues with the vehicle, everything pointing to go, where it should be about 20 seconds away from launch.
Vehicle to internal power.
Auto sequence initiated. Vehicle now on internal power. The launch command has been issued. You can see the rocket engines firing.
Second umbilical tower.
Power is going to start ramping up.
Engine turbopumps at flight speed. Engines at maximum.
Turbo pumps at flight speed and liftoff. Sergei Ryazanskiy, Randy Bresnik, and Paolo Nespoli rocketing away from Baikonur and on their way to the International Space Station.
And liftoff.
You can see the very bright first stage engines cutting across the night sky there in Baikonur.
25. 20 seconds into flight. All systems are
getting reports, everything running nominally or normally for the first stage, so getting good first stage performance so far. Soyuz delivering about 930,000 pounds of thrust with those 4 boosters and the single core engine.
Is nominal.
They're going to be burning liquid fuel for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds of the flight. Already passed 1 minute since liftoff. Velocity already approaching 1,100 miles per hour for the Soyuz spacecraft.
Your pitch nominal. Copy. 70 seconds into flight. Everything's nominal on board.
And continuing to get good reports from the controllers in Baikonur. Everything looking good with the rocket so far as the first stage continues onwards.
Into flight. Everything's nominal on board. 90 seconds into flight. Stage 1 and 2 thrusters are working nominally.
So we
roll pitch and you are nominal.
And we have confirmation that the escape tower has been jettisoned, and there you can see the 4 strap-on boosters flying away, making something known as the Koryov Cross. The 4 strap-on boosters now detached. The first stage has done its job, and then the core stage of the second stage continuing to burn now. At this point, the rocket already 48 miles in altitude, traveling, or rather 28 miles in altitude, the Soyuz traveling at over 3,300 miles per hour.
150 seconds and into flight. Second stage, thrusters are working nominally.
And everything continuing to look good with the second stage. Getting confirmation from the visiting vehicle officer that the launch shroud, so that protective shroud around the Soyuz spacecraft, has been jettisoned. So Soyuz now exposed during the additional climb to orbit.
Seconds. All parameters are nominal.
At this point, a little over 3 minutes since launch, the Soyuz rocket traveling at a speed of over 4,700 miles per hour. For those just tuning in, we had a successful launch. Those lights you see coming back down are the strap-on boosters in the escape tower that detach from the rocket following a successful flight. Second stage, the core stage, continuing to perform as expected. That core stage, 56 feet in length, 13.5 feet in diameter. And it has a single engine with 4 different fuel chambers, and it provides between 178,000 and 222,000 pounds of thrust, depending on the altitude. And it's going to continue firing for about 3 minutes and 28 seconds of operation. It burns until the 4-minute, 43-second mark. And then the Soyuz will use, again, what's known as a hot stage technique. So the third stage will actually ignite while the second is still burning.
Thrusters are working nominally.
A view inside the cabin, you can see things going very well for the rocket. The crew, Paolo Nespoli here in the center of the screen, Sergei Rosansky in the bottom right corner of your screen. And then getting some animations now from Roscosmos, the Russian Federal Space Agency. Again, at this point, the vehicle is still being controlled by the blockhouse, the control center in Baikonur. And then following separation from the third stage, control of the Soyuz spacecraft will get handed over to the Russian Mission Control just outside of Moscow. And we should be coming up on the third stage. And we've heard confirmation that the second stage has separated. So that core stage separating at an altitude of about 105 statute miles. The third stage now continuing the Soyuz climb into orbit. Getting away from Paolo Nespoli, he's in the right seat. And then Randy Brezhnev at the top of your screen, Sergei Rosansky in the middle.
10 seconds into flight, stability.
Everything continuing to look good with the Soyuz rocket. Being propelled by that single engine of the third stage provides about 67,000 pounds of thrust and is going to burn for 4 minutes and 2 seconds. So this is the final part of the climb into orbit. The first and second stages doing their job and dropping away.
Thrusters are working.
The third stage now going to continue. Again, this will burn until about 8 minutes, 45 seconds following the liftoff. And right now we're at 5 minutes and 50 seconds, so just a couple of more minutes to go.
350.
And then we'll see the Soyuz spacecraft separate from the third stage, and it will be in orbit and on its way to the International Space Station.
Roll, pitch, and yaw are all nominal. .380 seconds into flight. Third stage thrusters are working nominally.
Six minutes, 40 seconds since liftoff, still about 2 minutes of burning for this third stage engine. Again, just the single core stage at this point. The vehicle
and everything's fine on board.
is, again, just about 2 minutes left. By the time the third stage cuts off, it'll be in an altitude of 125 statute miles over the Earth. And it'll deliver the Soyuz into orbit, and then it'll be able to deploy the solar arrays and all the various antennas it'll need for the flight up to the International Space Station. But so far, everything going very well so far today. The team's not tracking any issues with the vehicle. The first and second stage performing flawlessly, actually giving us some pretty great views in the night sky over Kazakhstan as the first and second stages dropped away. 7.5 minutes into the flight. At this point, the Soyuz rocket actually traveling at almost 13,500 miles per hour, ultimately going to climb up to about 17,500 miles an hour, the speed the space station's traveling at, and then it'll begin its chase down of the vehicle.
470 seconds into flight. Third stage thrusters are working nominally.
And so we're at about 8 minutes into the flight, so just a little over 40 seconds now remaining of powered flight for the Soyuz rocket. We'll keep an eye in the cabin here as you will see the astronauts get a bit of a jolt when that third stage cuts off and drops away. But once that's complete, they'll be in their preliminary orbit, be able to start chasing down the International Space Station.
500 seconds into flight. Five 110 seconds into flight. Roll, pitch, and yaw are all nominal. Parameters are nominal as well.
And there you see the crew members getting a bit of a jolt, that signifying the third stage has cut off, getting the confirmation here that it has indeed separated.
And I am handing you over.
And so there we have it. Sergei Rosansky, Randy Briznik, and Paolo Nespoli in orbit. Their Soyuz spacecraft now about 125 miles over planet Earth.
Guys, we read you loud.
Third stage performs an avoidance maneuver and then drops away.
All right, work per page 35.
And getting confirmation from the visiting vehicle officer, all of the antennas and the solar arrays have been deployed, so that's always a good sign. The Soyuz now going to orbit at this altitude that's going to be raised over the next 6 hours by a series of different burns to place it in close proximity to the International Space Station. But a flawless launch, a flawless opening of all of those antennas and arrays. The crew now in orbit control of the spacecraft from here on out will be overseen from the Russian Mission Control Center just outside of Moscow. But a very happy Rosansky, Bresnik, and Nespoli obviously in space and on their way towards the International Space Station.
And you will be sending the RDR command via KRL command data link in 10 seconds. Dynamic mode enabled. Copy. Dynamic mode enabled. And we are standing by for the first measurement from you guys on your go.
На время 18:52:10. Давление ВС 784. Давление БО 812. Давление ПО 868.
At 15:52 unintelligible, SR pressure is 584, BO pressure is 813, and the third measurement is 868. Copy Voray, and you can move on to the next page and work per the table. Copy. And we see the image. Please select Approach Display. We are done with the test of the first set of the first string. And
so again, right now, Sergei Rosansky, Paolo Nespoli, and Randy Bresnik, the NASA astronaut and retired Marine colonel, now in outer space in their Soyuz spacecraft safely. Flawless launch today, and the spacecraft performing as expected. All of the antennas and the solar arrays deployed successfully, and they're now going to get ready to begin chasing down the International Space Station. They're going to perform a series of what's known as delta velocity burns 4 of them over the next several hours, which will incrementally raise their orbit until they're up at about 250 statute miles along with the space station. After about 6 hours of flight, that'll place them very close to the station and then set them up for their docking to the Rosviet module.
17, 115, 13.6, 19, 2, 4, 4, 1, 3, 21, 1.2, 20 seconds, 3, 2, 9er, 23rd measure, 3, 3, 1, 24, 17.3, 25, 17.3, parameter to 26 is 271, propellant 878. We copy all bar A2. Please monitor the messages on the KSP panel. Bora MCC Moscow.
And we're just continuing to hear some chatter between the Russian Mission Control Center in Koryov, just outside of Moscow, and the crew members in space. Again, Sergei Ryazanskiy, Randy Bresnik, and Paolo Nespoli in orbit in their Soyuz MS-05 spacecraft, orbiting the Earth at a little over 120 statute miles. They're going to continue to raise that orbit up over the next 6 hours until they're on the level with the International Space Station at about 250 statute miles and get them set up for a docking a little bit later this evening here in Houston.
Expect installation.
Everything went very well with the launch, which came right on time at 10:41 a.m. Central Time, 11:41 a.m. Eastern, 9:41 p.m. over in Baikonur in the evening. But the 8-minute 45-second trek up into orbit, very flawless for the Soyuz spacecraft. They didn't track any issues. The first, second, and third stage all performing exactly as expected and delivering the Soyuz spacecraft into its preliminary orbit. We'll stand by for just a few more minutes. We'll be bringing you some replays of the launch itself, and then we'll break away for a couple of hours until it's time to watch these 3 crew members dock to the International Space Station. And just to review a couple of the times coming up for you. So again, we'll have our launch replays coming up next. That should be at about 11:05 a.m. Central, 12:05 p.m. Eastern. That's showing all the replays of the vehicle lifting off from Baikonur. We'll have a post-launch video file at 12:30 p.m. Central, showing all of the pre-launch activities, the launch itself, and then any interviews with visiting dignitaries and program officials. And then we'll break away for a few hours while we wait for the MS-05 to catch up to the International Space Station. Resume our coverage with docking at 4:15 p.m., with the docking itself coming at about 5 p.m. Central. We'll then break away for an hour or so while they conduct leak checks and various other tests just to get ready. And then we'll resume with hatch opening coverage at 6 p.m., the hatch opening scheduled at 6:40. And then we'll see the crew members move on to the International Space Station, and then they'll also get a chance to talk to friends and family back in Baikonur who have watched all of the events unfold today. And the final thing tonight will be the post-docking and hatch opening video file showing all of the events from the day. That'll be at 9 p.m. Central. So stick around for replays of a rocket launching and then join us back in a couple hours as we get ready to welcome 3 new crew members to the International Space Station, and we'll be back here on NASA TV. For now, though, thanks for tuning in this morning and watching the launch of the Soyuz MS-05. Special thanks to all our viewers following Randy Bresnik and his mission. Be sure to follow him on social media at AstroComrade on the various platforms. And we will see you in a couple of hours. So signing off for now, this is Mission Control Houston.